look, I just want to be clear. We are not saying that because of any California state senator's perceived sexual orientation.
I am.
We're
Kevin.
saying that.
I'm saying.
We're saying it because he's one of the most evil sons of bitches around. So, little nugget on Scott Wiener. Okay, there is in many states in this country a law that says that if you are knowingly HIV positive, you have to tell your partner that you're HIV positive, or you get charged with attempted murder for spreading AIDS. Scott Wiener changed that law in California, which you're never going to believe what happened afterwards. AIDS is back. There is a rise in HIV positive tests in California. Now, everyone knows that if you want to get rid of HIV, all you got to do is be Magic Johnson. But not everyone has that kind of money. Not everybody has the amount of money to cure AIDS like Magic Johnson did. But he also is like all about like lowering the age of consent and like goofy books in school. He's a real fucking creep. So, Mark, your analogy to the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree butt plug is well taken.
No, I was genuinely concerned he might be confused. If you, like you said, Kev, if you know his work, I just wanted to make that clear that is not a butt plug of the holiday variety. It is in fact a Christmas tree. And
I'm gonna go with appropriate then.
Thank you. Tweet. Yeah, no, it was. I meant it. Very official. I thought it was in public interest. Didn't want any confusion. And it is on the East Coast, so I know he's out of his element. And just wanted to make sure that there was no confusion, crypto. So apparently the tweet's doing well. So tweet's going. Definitely don't retweet it, guys. It's just Mark could be taken the wrong way. Yeah.
Well, that's usually how butt plugs are taken, the wrong way.
Just wanted to break in and tell you that Washington Post, New York Times, Associated Press have officially called the House for the Republicans with 218.
Oh, that's good. It's good news.
Hey, speaking of the New York Times, did anybody discuss the LA Times firing the entire editorial board and demanding that the paper be fair and balanced and accurate? It's fucking bizarre. Like, it's in LA, guys, and they're like, yeah, we're done with this bullshit.
It's a Hail Mary.
Well, I'll say real quick, I said the other night, James, I mean, there's things changing here in LA. It's small, but we got rid of Gaston. The state voted against the Prop 36, which was the $900 of shoplifting and you're okay, and the homeless situation, you can just sleep wherever you want. So there's some changes happening.
Wait. So now that Gascon is gone, does that mean that we're not going to get like a free Menendez brothers? Or is that like a state?
Relax, Kev. You can still shit on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
No. I just want to know.
Kevin,
I just want to know if the guy who blew his mother's head off with a shotgun is going to get out of jail because of a Netflix documentary. I just want to know if that's still on the table. If we're still talking about Lyle and Kyle, or whatever the hell the kid's name. I don't know. I was like 3 when it happened. But like a Netflix documentary, and somehow these two psychopaths are going to get out of jail. Get the hell out of here. It was like when making a murderer was like a big thing, and they angst Obama about what the hell was that guy's name? What the hell was the making a murderer guy's name? You guys know what I'm talking about?
I watched it. I forget his name.
Well, yeah, it was like when they asked Obama about him, whether or not he was going to pardon him. Turns out, yeah, he definitely killed those people. Like, Netflix documentaries are not grounds for retrials.
Where's your compassion, Kev?
Oh, they killed their parents to try to get their money. Like, that's where my compassion is. Also, like, I'm sorry, like, you know, what are they going to do?
Listen, better they kill their parents than your parents.
I don't live in L.A., and my parents have no money, so they wouldn't be a target for the Menendez brothers. So does that mean the Menendez brothers are not getting a new trial for my? Does
Wait,
anyone know
hey
that?
Kevin, were you talking about the Jinx?
No,
No, it's about making a murder. And as far as I know, Kevin, yeah, it's going to be transferred to the new guy, and then he'll have to make it. So I think it is on hold.
Oh, that's a real shame for Lyle and Eric. I guess they're gonna have to.
They almost did it, Kev. They almost
pulled it off because well, I mean, come on, like, come on, what are we doing here?
Well, the Democrats need votes. They'll be like, fuck, we need those two guys.
I just think it's funny that like George Gascon was the DA of LA to begin with. Wasn't his dad like the police commissioner for OJ? Like they just keep failing up.
doesn't make him a bad guy, Kev.
Kev, are you just filled with all of this useless fucking knowledge?
Bro, I'm real good at Jeopardy. Like I'm really good at Jeopardy.
Just these random comments. I'm like, who knows this stuff?
Dude, I am a. Come see me in Trivial Pursuit. Get done.
Nice.
It's
Well, I
no-
can tell you that I'm going to make some room real quick, so I want to bring up my buddy Thomas. I'll drop down.
I'm going to drop, Krista. Much love to everybody.
Well,
Yeah, I'm going to bed anyway.
All right, well, all you fuckers are leaving.
Yeah,
I was
see
going to
that.
say, just
How many people do you think were killed in the Holocaust? 71,000 that died in Auschwitz. How many do you think were killed in the Holocaust? I don't know, but I would bet my entire net worth that it was under 6 million. Holocaust denial is a deeply anti-Semitic tactic used to rewrite history and minimize the suffering of the Jewish people. The 6 million figure is supported by extensive records, survival testimonies, and historical documentation. And denying it not only is factually incorrect, but it is also incredibly disrespectful to those who suffered. Holocaust denial is illegal in many countries because it contributes to hate and provides a foundation for anti-Semitism. I believe that it should be illegal here in this country as well. We'll see what happens with President-elect Trump and the direction his new administration and security team takes on that particular rhetoric. Next, Bilzerian described Hamas as a resistance organization, even calling one of its leaders, Yahya Sinwar, a hero. This is not only just a mistake, this is extremely dangerous. Have a look. You say that October 7th wasn't as bad as people have said. What do you mean by that? Because from Hamas's own boasting through their GoPro cameras, they mutilated, burned alive, raped and abused, beheaded some people, set fire to homes, they kidnapped babies, they kidnapped Holocaust survivors, grandparents. They did just about every act of depravity it is impossible to do. And they didn't just do it, they gleefully posted it on social media and the internet so that we could all watch in real time the horrors that they were perpetrating. It's hard to imagine a more horrific act than what happened that day. Why would you try to downplay it? Well, I mean, there was only 2 babies killed from what I was told, and one was in the hospital, and the other one was shot by a bullet. There was no babies in ovens. There was no, beheaded people that I saw. The rapes were disproven, so all that was Israeli propaganda. Listen, many people will listen to you and think that what you're spewing is bullshit propaganda from the other side. And the reason I say that is you say there was no raping or abuse of women, and yet the UN Special Representative on Sexual Violence in Conflict, Pramila Patten, reported in March this year that there was clear and convincing information that Israeli hostages in Gaza experienced sexual violence.
The guy who went through Bud twice. Navy SEAL.
And degrading treatment. And reasonable grounds to believe such abuse is ongoing. There is also reasonable grounds to believe that conflict-related sexual violence occurred during the 7th of October attacks in multiple locations across Gaza periphery, including rape and gang rape at at least 3 locations. So when you say it didn't happen, United Nations report into all this, which established it absolutely did happen and was horrific, is what? Is a pack of lies? And if so, why would the United Nations lie? Look, I wasn't there, but I have, seen articles that said that it did not happen. So, if it did happen, that's terrible. Hamas is a resistance organization. Hamas is an internationally recognized terrorist organization by the United States and the EU, the European Union, and many other nations. They're responsible for thousands of civilian deaths, targeting innocent people with zero regard for life. These people they claim to resist are ordinary civilians, and glorifying Hamas emboldens that extremist ideology and justifies their violence. I spent years in the counterterrorism world going after terrorism groups like Hamas. And let me tell you this, there is absolutely zero room for glorifying those who target civilians. Calling Hamas a resistance organization is a dangerous lie that legitimizes terrorism and puts millions of lives at risk. So why do people like Bilzerian fall into these conspiracy theories? There's actually a psychological draw to them, something that we need to understand if you truly want to grasp why such harmful narratives continue to grow. I want to discuss it. Have a look at this clip of Bilzerian talking about his research. To be clear, you have absolutely no evidence that any Jews killed JFK, do you? Nothing. There's been numerous documentaries tying the, Jewish mafia, the CIA. I wasn't there, but everything that I've seen evidence-wise points to Israel. And the problem I have with this, you say everything you've seen, right? It just seems to me like you see a lot of conspiracy theory stuff. There is zero evidence that any Jews killed John F. Kennedy. Zero. I'm just curious why you want to be so inflammatory without actually having any evidence. And as you say, does this sit back and say, well, I wasn't there? Well, I wasn't there. Obviously, I wasn't even born. But I know that there's no credible evidence that Jewish people killed JFK. And yet you just say it as a fact, as if somehow we should just believe this. So in the intelligence world where I come from, there's a deep understanding of psychology and human behavior. It's essential for us to understand how people think, what drives them, how we can predict actions or manipulate behaviors. This is how we target assets. This is why Israel's so good at confronting their enemies and taking out terrorist leaders like we've seen over the last year. It's how we recruit informants and flip individuals who could be key to intelligence operations that will thwart potential and future terror attacks. We study people's fears, their biases, and their insecurities, and their influences, and what influences their actions and beliefs. And this kind of study isn't just academic. These are real-world consequences when it comes to security and protecting an entire nation, the only Jewish nation on the planet. Now, conspiracy theories operate in much the same way. They tap into fundamental psychological needs. The need for certainty, the need for control, and the need to feel part of something larger than ourselves. These theories offer simple answers to complex and often overwhelming issues. They make the world feel less chaotic and give a sense of order when there is none. And that's why people like Bilzerian are drawn to them. Conspiracy theories feed into the human desire for certainty. They provide a very clear narrative and villain. And when life gets complicated, when we feel helpless or uncertain, it's easier to believe in a theory that explains everything in very simple terms. And in a way, it's like a psychological shortcut. It's a way that makes sense, things that seem beyond our control. And this is where it becomes dangerous. People like Bilzerian who are attracted to these theories because they make them feel like they have access to the truth. Gives them a sense of exclusivity, a sense of being in the know. And it's powerful. It's part of that addiction that Bilzerian's been feeding for many years. And this need to feel special or unique is a very powerful motivator for someone who's built an entire public persona around being different, rebellious, and above the norm. This need to be seen as different and in the know is part of what makes conspiracy theories to people like Bilzerian so appealing. But it doesn't just stop there. When these theories are amplified by people with influence, like Bilzerian, they begin to form an echo chamber where others start to believe it. They're part of the club. And the psychological draw, that belonging, it's a sense of power and superiority over those who are blind to the truth. But the reality is, all they're doing is spreading confusion, fear, more hatred, and in some cases, leading people down dangerous paths. So Danny boy, little Danny, you're not just telling lies. You're feeding into a psychological game that has consequences. And people who believe in these theories can act on them. Just like we've seen in the intelligence world, where individuals who feel betrayed or disenfranchised can be manipulated into taking dangerous actions. And the cost of your need to feel special, Danny boy, and important, is much higher than you realize.
Very funny.
And as someone who once tried to become a Navy SEAL and fight terrorism worldwide, Dan,
Yep.
it's clear that you've lost your way. And maybe it's the pain of not being good enough to make it into the SEAL teams. Or is it the sting of being rejected because you didn't have what it takes? It's cool, man. I get it. It's not for everybody. In fact, it's not for most people. Special operations is a very small world. You were looking for something to prove your worth. But when that door closed, you turned to a different path. One that's less about service and more about selling your brand. And we saw how that went. Dan, I think that the SEAL community knew this about you. I feel like the instructors understood this
There we go.
pretty early on.
There we go.
You couldn't handle the discipline and the camaraderie and the sacrifice, and instead you turned yourself into a brand. A loud, flashy, gambling character whose actions were about you, not the mission, Dan. And you turned to platforms that let you sell this distorted version of your idea of strength. And it's about being noticed, but not taking on the burden that comes with that true responsibility. You want to be seen as a warrior, my friend, but warriors don't chase the fame. Anachnu mishaftim, we serve. And you, Dan, have proven time and time again that you're not interested in service. You are interested in validation. Let's not ignore something else going on here. The paranoia, the over-the-top behavior, the grandiose claims about being in the know. This could be a side effect of coming off the steroids and all that growth hormone. You looked a little smaller in the interview. And when you've been on those substances for years, I think you said 9 women a day was your average. It's only one way to keep up. They amplify the sense of power, but when you come off, those high crashes and the body goes through withdrawal, the paranoia and the sense of being watched becomes a very natural, real psychological response. And Jordan Peterson can speak to that a lot better than me. But it makes people feel like they have to keep pushing the narrative, keep selling themselves as that truth teller because in their mind, everyone's against them. And it becomes a way to cope with those intense highs and lows that you've been through. And in your case, Dan, it feeds directly into these dangerous conspiracy theories and these walls that you've been building up around you for years. I want to thank you guys for watching.
It was pretty
Stay
good.
informed, stay vigilant.
He's a friend. He's a cutie and he's a friend. Okay.
Not bad. The only problem I have with it is that he actually already answered the question that he said at the very beginning. Should this sort of speech be illegal? And the answer is no. It should not be illegal because the counter to it is obviously what he just did. That's the telling that people are useless cowards that don't understand anything is a much, much, much more effective way of dealing with the problem rather than just saying it should be out.
Well, I hope Aaron Cohen can go on Piers Morgan's show because Dan Bilzerian has 30 followers plus all the platforms, maybe total 115 million people saw his interview, plus how many, this, he's only has 5,000 people that saw this at 50,000 followers. I can tweet it. It's on my feed. I tweeted it out already. Somebody can clip it and download
Yeah,
the video.
let's get that too.
But I think it's somebody who knows how to download the video portion of it, because I don't know how to do that shit, like the actual clip so that it opens straight to the video, that would be good. But yeah, it just needs to...
Real quick, I do agree. It's good to have one. It's good. I think it's maybe even essential to have one country in the world where free expression is almost absolute, right? And America is unique in that way, but it is notable, and he did note it. So I do agree with you, Walter, that it shouldn't be illegal. But I agree with every other point that he made, that just because it shouldn't be illegal, and the reason it shouldn't be illegal, it's not even necessarily because of the high-minded of the answer to good speech, bad speech is good speech, although hopefully that's true. It's because the danger of the government regulating speech is even more dangerous than what he said. But he was 100% right that just because even if it is legal, it is extremely dangerous. It is extremely certain types of lies. I also understand, as a conservative, the term misinformation is triggering for us, okay, as conservatives, including me, right? Because we've heard that term abused so often in recent years. But it doesn't mean that the concept is a fictitious concept. It's a very real concept, but I would have just called it lies. When you defame and lie about people or groups in certain ways, so think about it this way. If a group is evil enough to invent something as grotesquely industrial-sized evil as the Holocaust, then what does that group deserve? Maybe another Holocaust, right? Because who would invent such a world-changing conspiracy except for the most satanic evil people? So it's super dangerous, and it is notable that in every other, I'm happy there's one that isn't like that. Let me make it clear, because if there wasn't a country like the United States, then everyone would even be worse. But it is notable that in every other democratic country on earth, every single one without exception, it's things like that are illegal. It's good that there's one that isn't, because otherwise those countries would be even less free speech. So that's why I stick to it. And the danger of government intervention is even more dangerous, because they can always
you have to hear the full interview. It's insane. This is like not even the bad stuff. Shit.
This is true. This is all true. But you guys are both discounting the fact that he is on Piers Morgan, who is calling him out for his bullshit to a much larger audience than Dan Bilzerian will ever have.
No, Dan Bilzerian has millions of total
about 100 million followers.
Actually, my biggest criticism was going to be. I don't think what he said should be illegal, although I think it's disgusting and should be noted as that, and he should be ripped apart. And I think there should be social consequences. There should be a lot of severe, non-legal, non-jail consequences.
He's in Qatar. He can't fucking leave Qatar anymore. He's
right, but
government, I think, at this point.
I think Morgan does this sort of clown nose on, clown nose off thing. So he's not himself an anti-Semite, but he's a publicity whore par excellence and has been for years. Whether he was anti-gun control, famously with pro-gun control with Ben Shapiro years ago. There's no need to bring on Dan Bilzerian to expound upon his views about whether the Holocaust is real. He's not a scholar. He's not he's not even like the martyr made kind of like.
Here's one point that I want to bring up to people that a lot of people don't understand about cyber stuff. So Dan Bilzerian, you say he has 30 million followers. I will tell you flat out right now that is not true. Most of these
not 30
accounts. Listen, so when you have giant accounts like that spew nothing but horrible shit, I will tell you right now that it is a contrived account that is designed to amplify the message even further.
So his account was that big from when he was doing all his titty stuff, with all the girls. That's my point. The account is not a new account.
Again, it doesn't matter what the account is. Large accounts that try to amplify their voices even further, they use bots to make their account numbers look far larger than they are, so that they sound more credible. It is a well-known thing in cyber. If you ever looked into what the dead internet theory is, if you look into what the dead internet theory is, that is, there's a significant portion of what happens online that's not even real. It's massive, and I do mean hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of bots that exist across platforms. When Elon first came into Twitter and he started looking at the bot problem, he was going to wipe all the bots out. And then he realized that the user base of the platform would be cut so much that it would be absolutely ridiculous. The amount of bots that exist on online traffic is far, 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 far more than anybody really realizes. So when you see someone like that who is expending ridiculous, horrible stuff, you have to remember that they're not talking to 50 million people.
Well, that's actually that amplifies why it was a mistake for Piers Morgan to bring him on, right? Piers Morgan's trying to play this thing like, oh no, I'm just trying to debunk it. There's no reason. There literally is no reason to bring on this dumbass. He's a very low IQ motherfucker and he is recovering from steroids, clearly, right?
But
There's
Piers Morgan he's a publicity guy.
He's a publicity guy, yeah.
Controversial topics.
So I think he deserves even more criticism because he knows what he's doing. Blazarian doesn't know what he's doing, or at least not fully, right?
I mean, Piers Morgan is a capitalist. He's trying to make money. This is clickbait central. He's going to make a fuck ton of ad money off of it. So of course he's going to do it. And no, it should not be made illegal. Acting on it, yes. Foreign money paying to amplify said statements in the United States. That's illegal. That should be gone after.
That's the correct way.
And January 20th, all of those little fuckers that were taking money from Qatar, coming in from Iran and other places, and putting that into the college campuses and putting it into the streets of every major city to get more people out on the street and get everybody in line with the Rainbow Coalition meeting the head fucking choppers, they're going to get deported. And I'm going to sit back and laugh my fucking ass off while they all get fucking deported. Thank you.
One last thing, just because I agree with both Walter and Brandon. Yes, no, I agree it shouldn't be illegal for the reasons I mentioned. But just this is an important distinction, especially for us conservatives who have been on the side of been railing against censorship and all that stuff. Just because something should be legally allowed does not mean it has to be platformed, right? Nobody here would defend if Piers Morgan invited on a person advocating for that pedophilia should be legal, or a person advocating that lynching should be legal, or a person advocating for the fact that the whole slavery thing that was like America's original sin, totally invented by the black people so that we would pay them reparations or whatever, right? Just because you can't say it doesn't mean that certain platforms need a platform.
There have always been restrictions on speech to some degree, but the difference.
No, I agree with the current rules. It should not be illegal. I'm just saying I have contempt for Piers Morgan for having that.
The outrage is making them more money, dude. The more outrage,
that's all they care about.
The more attention they get, the more reach that they're given. And the best thing you can do with these toxic narcissists that have some kind of point that they're trying to make by making money but being evil is to ignore them completely.
I agree. I haven't tweeted about it once or brought it up on Space, but since
you did bring up a really important point, though, and he mentioned it in here. There is, so I know that the concept of misinformation is like you said, a triggering word for conservatives, and it is. I mean, it pisses us off to hear the concept because it's been used and weaponized against Americans, and it never should have been. But at the same time, there is a significant need on the cyber level in the United States to ensure that our information space is not randomly flooded by foreign countries trying to do bad things. That is a real threat that should be addressed. And it has to be done very carefully because you cannot just be using it like they have been, where they just randomly labeled all Trump supporters domestic terrorists and then censored and silenced them and used FISA courts against them. That's the problem. So you can't allow that.
Foreign dictatorships do not get the First Amendment.
Yeah, the Chinese should not be able to change the algorithm of TikTok to show our children terrible, terrible things and then have their TikTok algorithm show them positive things about life. That should be illegal. That sort of thing is not okay. And it's done intentionally. I mean, that's cyber warfare, cyber psychological warfare. And by the way, we invented cyber psychological warfare. We know how it works. We literally invented it. So we know how this stuff works. The problem is that somewhere in our government, starting back in 2012, underneath some random president that I don't need to talk about, decided that we were going to use that on American citizens to shut them up. And that is when things went very, very, very wrong. So the concept of having to worry about our cyber infrastructure and our cyber psychological warfare is a real threat that we need to worry about. But it needs to be very, very, very carefully warranted. I mean, it's a very easy fix. I mean, all you have to do is say, to do this to American citizens, you have to have a warrant. It's a shocking concept, I know. You must have a warrant, and it can't just be a FISA court, because a FISA court is for foreign influence, not for domestic. You can't use a FISA court on domestic citizens. You have to give a warrant. You need a digital Bill of Rights for American citizens. Those things can fix that problem. but it doesn't negate the fact that the concept of a mass information cyber warfare attack on the United States is not a threat. That is a real threat that does happen.
And again, TikTok is slated to be the ban / forced sale, but it looks like they're gonna sell. It's slated to go into effect the day before Trump's inauguration.
Yeah, they're not going to let that through, by the way. That's not going to happen. But the TikTok ban is it's a complete farce of a bill that is designed specifically to enact essentially the Digital Services Act of the EU. It's designed to do the same thing in the Americas. That's what it wants. So if you haven't read the TikTok bill and you don't know what it's about, maybe you should go read it, because it is not a TikTok ban. It is a giving the government full control over censorship for the American citizenship.
But so what clauses in it gives the American government full control over censorship?
Yeah, I mean, you need to go read the bill. This thing is laced all the way through it with all sorts of stuff about how they. There's a section. So here's one section of the bill you'll love. There's a section in the bill that gives the federal government the ability to place a leadership board that controls content moderation over top of all social platforms in the United States. And further than that, they get to select who is on that, and they don't have any choice on who's on that and what they get to do. It is an absolutely absurd bill, which is why the Stop the TikTok. I mean, there was a whole campaign about this last year of us trying to stop this. American Mission was a huge part of that. So there was a huge.
No, I remember. But so yeah, I'll look at the bill. Maybe the bill itself is bad. I'm open to that, but I'm strongly in favor of forcing either divestiture from the CCP or to be banned, for the reasons that we just described about foreign interference.
Yeah, I mean, if you write a new bill that specifically targets TikTok and says that it cannot be used as a foreign influence campaign for a hostile government, then that's fine. But that's not what the bill was. There was TikTok isn't even written in the bill anywhere.
Right, but obviously
That's crazy.
But obviously provisions only apply to TikTok, because there's no discussion about any other.
No, it doesn't. That's the point.
Okay, put it this way. At least the part about sale or sale or closing, that only applies to TikTok, because otherwise other companies, social media companies, would be discussed.
But that again, that's not in the bill. That's the marketing campaign they've pushed out about this thing. The bill has absolutely nothing to do with that. Nothing. I'm not even joking. TikTok is not even in the bill. That is the marketing.
Yeah, you're not allowed to put the name of a company in a bill like that. You can't single somebody out in legislation.
Yeah, it's illegal.
Right, so that's why. So that's a good explanation for why the TikTok thing. But obviously, the conditions described in the bill, at least about the divestiture, the forced sale, or the closing, only apply to TikTok. Otherwise, we would have heard, Facebook being like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, that's why you need to go read the bill, dude, because none of that's in there. It literally doesn't. It's not even in all the forced divestiture, all that stuff. It is not in the bill. That is not written into it at all.
All right, I'm going to go look for a summary of it first. I don't know how long the bill is itself, but
it's short, but it's very conniving. So I'll send it to you. I have it.
Okay, cool.
Unless I'm mistaken, we don't need a bill to deal with TikTok, anyways. Correct? There are already laws in the books that we can use to stop the sort of infiltration that they're doing, and the work that they're doing against, national security. Is that correct, Walter?
I mean, if you could prove that company is acting as essentially like an intelligence spyware on American citizens for a foreign government, yeah, you would need a bill to deal with that.
Right. And I think it's pretty obvious that they get information and they're using it in whatever way the CCP deems.
Yeah, one of the things I think that we do need, though, is some sort of restrictions on age, because it's like we don't allow kids to smoke cigarettes or drink alcohol or many things, even drugs where they're legal now, like marijuana. We don't let kids have them, but yet we'll allow them to doom scroll themselves to death. So there should be some restrictions.
So a quick question. So the divestiture stuff and the selling and everything is not in there, but when you look up the summary on Grok, it has it listed. Why is that?
That is a good question, but I'm just going to go get you the bill so you can read it.
Yeah. Please do. I'm just wondering, why do they put that in the summary Because I know that there's a bait and switch with that bill. I just couldn't remember what it was. So
Listen, the marketing that they put behind this thing was absurd. Like that was one of the most expensive marketing campaigns that they put out that I've ever seen. The only other marketing campaign I've ever seen that's similar to that was the push against when Trump went to kill net neutrality. So if you guys remember this, this was a 2017, I think it was, net neutrality.
It was a little bit before that because my son wrote his high school application on net neutrality. Oh, so yeah, it was.
Yeah, well, by the way,
17, yeah.
to be fair,
16, 17, yeah.
The lobbying campaign by the parent by ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, was also massive and extremely well funded. So let's be fair about that.
They had little symbols up in the top on TikTok showing you don't call Congress, attack Congress. Like, it was ridiculous. But I mean, the marketing campaign from the outside forces is what I'm talking about. So the only comparison I can find to it, if I have to think about it, is net neutrality. And if you look back at net neutrality, I actually had a friend of mine that when Trump was elected and net neutrality came up on the chopping block, he called me and personally told me that he was going to be furious at me if Trump got rid of net neutrality because he didn't want Facebook to cost $100 a month. And I could not stop laughing. Like, I could not stop laughing at how stupid it was. But this guy fully believed it. He was 100% convinced that if Trump banned net neutrality, that Facebook was going to cost you $100 a month because it was going to kill some, they wouldn't be able to make money or something. It was the most ridiculous reason I'd ever heard in my life. And it took me like 20 or 30 minutes to explain to him that is not what net neutrality was. Net neutrality was yet another Obama-era control over the internet.
I will say this, whereas with net neutrality, especially after it got awareness among sort of intellectual conservatives and conservative activists, whereas that became sort of almost a unanimous that we all opposed the liberal stance on that, right? We opposed the imposition of net neutrality, et cetera, because we realized that was a bait and switch and bullshit. The TikTok ban garnered and still garners, including among me, wide-scale, not unanimous, but wide-scale support on the right of center for the reasons that we talked about. That is, Chinese algorithmically designed brain poison to ruin America.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other subjects? Are we going to call it, or what do you guys think? Anything else?
I think we solved all the world's problems for today.
I think so too. I think so too.
I'm waiting for that 11:30 drop of someone even more controversial than Matt Gaetz. If you want to see Matt Gaetz get put through, he's going to put up Alex Jones for press secretary, and I'm just going to love it. And I can.
Oh God!
I really don't think it's possible to be more controversial than Matt Gaetz just because of the position.
Put Alex Jones as press secretary, the world will literally melt. The entire world will.
I think he sold off all his office furniture, right? Because today was the day.
Listen,
we closed up.
No idea, guys. Look, okay, you clearly haven't followed InfoWars. He has been saying he's going to be closed for 5 years. This is number 700 of him saying that he's closing. He has been literally saying this forever. It is his marketing scheme. They're coming to take us down today. It's over. This is the final broadcast. This is the last one. I loved being your host. Also, buy these supplements.
And everything's breaking news now. No matter what he puts out, it's always super important breaking news you have to look at.
It's been breaking news for 20 years.
Okay, so quick question. What was the readout today from Biden and Trump meeting? Do we have any leaks on that? Anything from the Biden leaks?
Trump got to meet with one of his voters today, which was really, I'm sure, a treat.
They looked so happy.
They looked really happy. Biden looks elated.
He's like, look, somebody's coming to visit me finally. They're letting me meet with friends, old friends, right?
No, he wanted Kamala to lose. I'm convinced of it. Before it was it's kind of funny. It's a funny joke, haha. But if you saw his press conference, not excluding today, if you saw his press conference that he gave, maybe 48 hours after the win, he literally jogged to the podium. He had a huge smile on his face, and he's like, "Good morning, good morning, good morning." That's the kind of look you give when something really good happens.
What
he
about
didn't
this
just wear the
Al
MAGA hat.
Sharpton?
He didn't just wear that MAGA hat. Sorry, cut in. He didn't just wear it though. He took it with him. When I seen him walking onto the plane with it, I don't know if that was AI, but I was cracking up. I was like, he's taking it with him. He's a Trump guy now.
So have you guys heard this Al Sharpton story where they invested $500,000 in some account for him first, and then he did the interview, or did the?
I've seen sort of the on the periphery, and that's part of the overall story of Kamala wasting a gargantuan amount of money on influencers and musicians and what have you.
Can you imagine having to pay all those people to endorse you, and then everybody just chooses Trump for free and goes hard for him?
And start allowing. This is Bill Ackman with Megan on these hot button issues. Hold on.
Actually, I give CNN some credit. Scott Jennings, I think, has been really outstanding in terms of presenting an alternative voice. And so I think he's sort of helpful. But, I think what's unfortunate about media companies, I think that the privilege of owning a media company for some people appears to be, this is a vehicle that I can use to advance my political point of view. It's really not about, bringing truth to the people. It's about how do I manipulate the audience to coming to a conclusion about what I believe. And I do think, the X platform is about, just open, free speech, let people, share their views and let the truth kind of emerge. I think that, I think fundamentally people are looking for truth. I mean, perhaps some subset of people want to just be reinforced with whatever they already believe. But when you, have an election outcome like this one, where you have, I would say, 45% of the country in complete shock about what took place, they have to be questioning their sources of truth and sources of information. And so, economics, a very powerful force. And as the audience leaves mainstream media, they're going to have to adapt. And so I think that's really the opportunity. If no one's watching MSNBC, they're going to have to change.
Yes, fewer and fewer people are watching MSNBC, and even fewer than that are watching CNN, which is why there's a report at Puck News that they will be having mass layoffs at CNN. I'm not surprised. The numbers are rock bottom. I mean, they're not even a remote competitor to Fox anymore or to MS. Chris Wallace just announced he's leaving CNN. Obviously, they did not renew his $8.5 million deal. His show got relegated to like another channel and then didn't do well. They can't support those salaries anymore. Not with their ratings. Not nearly with their ratings. I know. I will say this. Having been through many presidential cycles at Fox News, I remember the doldrums of when Romney lost in 2012, and our ratings were in the tank compared to where they normally were. I mean, the audience left. They did not want to see anything about the start of Barack Obama's second term. So the audience, whatever was there before, will likely come back. But CNN's problem is it was crappy to begin with. It's not going to get any better, even if they recover from this valley. There's the promised land is no longer in sight. And for MSNBC, Bill, I don't know if you saw this story. It's absolutely incredible. We've been talking about some of these crazy donations that the Harris campaign made to get these endorsements. They reportedly paid $5 million to Megan Thee Stallion. Somehow Oprah's production company got $1 million to build that set. I mean, I'm in TV. It doesn't cost $1 million to build even the fanciest set. It just doesn't. $100,000 to the sex podcaster to make her hotel room look. No, that doesn't cost. Sex podcaster. It doesn't. Call me that. At most, that would cost maybe $20,000. I don't know where all this money went or why they spent so willingly and irresponsibly. But there's a report out today that Al Sharpton.
Thank God she's not running the country. Imagine what she would do with the federal.
No kidding. The opposite of what Elon's about to do with Vivek. Hold on a second. Al Sharpton, who not only runs the National Action Network, that's his nonprofit organization, which is very sketchy to begin with. He hosts a show on MSNBC, and it just came out today via the Free Beacon, which is a great group, Chuck Ross there, that her campaign donated $500,000 to his nonprofit weeks before Harris went to sit with him for an interview on MSNBC. I'm dying from the conflict of interest. I'm dead. It happened. Bill, this is like the bias is coming out of the ears. This is so irresponsible, unethical, and not allowed. It's so egregious. MSNBC is going to have to respond. You cannot make a donation to an anchor's charity on the side of $500,000 as a presidential candidate, then go sit with the anchor, and he didn't disclose it. He didn't disclose. This is not a news organization, but they continue to masquerade as one.
Yeah, it's terrible. And actually, we've had our own experience with Al Sharpton. I don't know if you know this, but after I started the protest happened every Thursday, 12 to 2. And when I actually read on X that he was going to be protesting me, I reached out to him. I said, look, I'm happy to sit down and have to explain my thinking on DEI. And he's been unwilling to meet with me. And, the off-ramp, of course, was sadly the wrong word, Al Sharpton, is, if you make the right donation to the right place, the protesters go away. But this is not something that we do here. So 12 to 2, and the protesters have no idea who I am. actually walked.
That's the best part of the story.
They're paid, look, at least people are getting paid something, which I feel good about. Maybe they get $25 an hour to protest us for a couple of hours, but it's so silly.
Is this because you supported the firing of Claudine Gay, a black woman who ran Harvard? This is what got you in trouble with him?
I don't know the specific Claudine itself, but I wrote a 5,000-word piece on DEI that went viral, 40 million views or something. And, ultimately, I was a catalyst, an important catalyst for her stepping down from Harvard. Combination of those two things, I think he doesn't like me for that, or he saw this as an opportunity. And I'm happy to discuss. I'm happy to hear his point of view, and if he disagrees with something, I'll have to explain where I'm coming from. But he's been unwilling to take a meeting, which I find.
I don't know.
Usually people protest so you can engage. There's no engagement.
Yeah, I don't recommend it. I talked to Al Sharpton. It's not worth your time. Plus, I think he's going to be fired soon. They got to fire Joy Reid now, and they got to fire Al Sharpton because, honestly, this is one of the more egregious breaches of journalistic ethics I've ever seen. They didn't respond to Chuck Ross of the Free Beacon when he called. There is no way they can get away without responding on this. I mean, I'm happy. In fact, team, please call them every day. Let's call them every day and demand response. They can't get away with this. This is an absolute black eye for the entire profession that's already made a fool out of itself. But this is beyond. Yeah, that was crazy because I remember he was very mad at you for supporting the firing of Claudine Gay. Meanwhile, you also supported the firing of the MIT and the white women who were running those other organizations. It had nothing to do with color, but he's a race hustler, so he saw an opportunity to get his so-called charity in the news and himself in the news. And I guess those 12 people, they need work from 12 to 2. Can you hire them, Bill? Maybe we can offload them onto the new Elon program.
I'm sure they're good people, but I don't know that they know why they're there. Actually, I chatted with one day I got dropped off the office. I forgot it was between 12 and 2, and I was chatting with one of the people there. I said, look, anytime Al Sharpton wants to sit down, I'm available to speak. But actually, what you make, I think, is a really important one. I think that campaigns have to disclose if they're paying, Oprah or a Hollywood star or music, an artist.
At the time.
Yeah, so they can't do it after the election. It's for sure.
Okay. I thought that interview was great. I thought it's really funny that they're protesting him at his office from 12 to 2, and he walks by them and they have no idea who he is. And they just want to be paid off for a donation to the charity, and he's like, we don't do that here, but, Anyways, the $500,000 with Al Sharpton before, I think it's significant. Anyways, I don't know what the ethics violations are like that, but it's insane. Okay.
So real quick here, I did go and find. So I was curious, but we started talking about the TikTok bill, and I was going to say I thought we killed that. So I was right. We did kill that. They just changed the name, and I guess they couldn't get rid of the marketing behind it. So it's not called the TikTok bill anymore. It's nothing to do with the TikTok bill anymore. It's considered the Foreign Adversary Digital Platform Act. Essentially, that's what it's called, and it has absolutely nothing to do with American citizens anymore, and actually within it expressly denies any ability to use it towards American citizens now in it. So this specifically designates ByteDance as a foreign adversary intelligence group and states that it is a foreign adversary controlled opposition technology. So it does say that there is divestiture in it. I don't know how they enforce that, but regardless, it is not specifically targeting, it's not a wide scope anymore. It's now very, very, very specific to foreign adversary. Everything in it is specifically going after anything that acts as a foreign adversary on U.S. soil with a large-scale data platform. So that's actually pretty good. Looks like the Republicans did a good job rewriting this bill and removing the absolutely absurd control over the internet that they were going to get out of it. So well done.
Okay, so I'm glad we looked it up. I was wondering. Okay. All right, guys. Anything else? I mean, I gave out my interviews. I have so many things I can post, but I can't do it right now because I'm mobile, so I can't play anything for anybody. But there were some great news takes from today. There was something great that came out also on Commander Pete as well. I don't know if you guys, it was somewhere on my feed. So, but again,
Real quick, if you want, can you guys tell me who your favorite pick is so far from the cabinet? I mean, mine is definitely Matt Gaetz, just for the meltdown that has happened after it was announced.
Mine is Walt, National Security.
I really like whoever it is that they're upset about today. So today
Rubio is my favorite for certain trolls, and then
tomorrow
Gates is my favorite for the other troll.
I don't care who it is; they're all fine with me. Today, it's my favorite is Matt Gaetz, but that's because they're really upset about Matt Gaetz today. So tomorrow, when he announces someone that really makes them mad again, then he'll be my favorite. And then the day after that, when he announces another person that makes him upset, that'll be my favorite. As long as they're consistently upset with everybody that he picks, I'm a very happy person.
You're hilarious.
I believe Hunter Biden he will be able to get a pardon from Trump. I do have this feeling.
I agree.
Doesn't the father do the pardon by himself privately? Isn't that how it works?
I think they probably made a deal today. I'm not gonna lie. Seems like Joe. It would be untoward for Joe to give his son a pardon, and I think Trump's probably gonna do it to be magnanimous. But he's getting something out of it. I'm sure of that. Maybe his transition will go a little smoother.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, he's just a civilian, and he's a drug abuser.
There's no way they're not doing. There's no way they're not going to do his pardon himself. There's no way they're going to leave that up for anybody else. There's so much stuff, Burisma and everything. Oh my God, yeah.
Well, he's not being tried for Burisma, so that could happen.
Oh, yeah, but they could try him for anything.
Right. But for the drug stuff, I mean, or is it a tax thing that he's being convicted of now?
You should appoint him to the DEA.
There's the gun. There's the gun. Appoint him to the DEA. That'd be fun. No, there's the gun stuff. There's so many stuff he did. I mean,
but they're convicting him of one.
The lying, the perjury form, taxes. God knows. I don't know. There's so many. We don't even know anymore.
I believe he has also Trump to help him in the hostage situation.
Well, Trump's going to help.
They can do anything.
Help America with the hostage situation. Biden can't do it. I would say this: when you played that Dan Bilzerian thing, I noticed. I don't know. You guys tell me if you've noticed this too. It seems like some of the raging, rampant, out of control anti-Semitism has really died down since the election, and it's either that I just blocked all the groypers, or I'm perceiving that it's died down quite a bit. And I think that's a super huge win. I think some of these people.
Wait, are you not seeing that they're posting every single one of his appointments as being part of the Israel or Jewish lobby, or it's nonstop?
I must have blocked all the right people because I'm not seeing.
No.
I'm not.
All of them, they're losing their minds. They're like, oh my God, and this guy, and this guy, and this guy.
That's pretty awesome. I have to admit, that is awesome. Like,
Yeah, they'll have like a picture. They'll have a picture of somebody, and there's like an Israeli flag somewhere off in the distance behind them, and they're like, "We got him! It's another one."
I love it. I did see Milo post something about it, and he just said, like, these people are so ridiculous. Like, they're so obsessed with the silliest, nonsense. And it's like, I don't know. The way you guys described it earlier, that it's like a mental disorder, I think is probably makes them more sense than anything else. Either that or there's someone's cutting them a check. I don't get it. But it's like, you guys understand that the man we just elected that we're all so happy for is a proud Christian Zionist, just like so many of us. Like, he's so proud, and he's such a big Zionist, and we got